slide out, even though I did make a dam there.
Yeah.
So
That's
I'm going to mix this one a little thicker.
To make a dam on it, right?
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to don my glove, which again I don't always do because I'm a bad guy, you know. But if I poured this directly into the footprints, I run the risk of misshaping the bottom of the print by the weight of the plaster. And in a lot of those old prints, in the mountain print, for example, you can see the divot right where John Green poured the cast into the print. And then it flowed outwards and had casting artifacts and stuff. So I'm going to teach you now something called the splatter cast method. I wouldn't bother trying to remove any organic material, but there's a little bit of dust in there, so I might blow out some of those bigger chunks. Because that's not really going to misshape the bottom of the print so much. Now, I'm getting my hands wet with the plaster. And what I'm going to show you is the splatter cast method. Well, this is too watery, actually, now that I'm looking at it.
On your clothes, would that ruin your clothes?
If you get on your clothes, dilute it right away if you can, if you care about your clothes. But I'm a guy.
Some of us care.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I get it on my hands, and now I'm just dribbling it into the print. Dribble it on, splatter it on, whatever you want to do. And what this is going to do is going to form a nice thin layer of plaster on the bottom of the footprint. It's not going to misshape the bottom of the print because this isn't enough weight to do that. And you're going to do this until the entire underside of the print is coated with plaster. This will enable you to not only to avoid misshaping the bottom of the footprints, but it's also going to allow you allow the plaster to seep into every little nook and cranny possible. And if there's dramatic lithics here, we're going to record them by doing this. We might get them otherwise, but I know this is going to get the dramatic lithics. This will also eliminate the possibility of casting artifacts, like in the Onion Mountain print, or in that Elma cast. Because on a hot day, like a nice day like this, there's a possibility that the ground will act like a sponge and suck out the moisture of the plaster, and the plaster will be too thick and it'll fold over itself and introduce casting artifacts that might be misinterpreted as dramatic lithics, like in the Onion Mountain cast. Okay, now the entire underside of my cast is pretty much coated here. And if you're close enough, you can see that actually some of it's drying. It's almost like magic shell on ice cream in a way, which I love, of course. So now I can pour plaster on top of that, and I don't run the risk of actually damaging the print. You want to go over the edge of the print a little bit, and this is going to slide down underneath, so I don't need to worry about this side of the cast. But I'm going to pour it up here a little bit. So it kind of slowly goes down. You want to record a little bit of the substrate around it.
That will eliminate it pushing it around, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anybody have a couple extra batteries?
You find yourself doing this at Thanksgiving with your mashed potatoes and gravy?
Like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters.
If you only have one, don't be bashful at using too much. If you have a bunch of prints and you're worried about not having enough casting material, you can use what Bob Titmus did. And he put down toilet paper in between the layers of plaster. And that kind of helped reinforce it. He used what he had on hand. I would recommend using gauze. Like go into your first aid kit and pull out some gauze and you put a layer of plaster down, then put a layer of gauze down, put a layer of plaster, put a layer of gauze. It'll help reinforce it. And when you look at the prints that Bob Titmus took at the Patterson-Gimlin film site 10 days after Roger and Bob got the film, you're going to see he got 10 in a row, and he wanted to get as many in a row as possible because he wanted to look for variation from print to print to print. So we're lucky enough to have 10 from the PG sites that Bob took on that day. And you look at them, they're actually the shells. They're concave. He reinforced them. I don't know how he got them out of there without breaking them. They're phenomenal. And they're just almost paper-thin shells of plaster. But they did the job. And they've been reproduced since then. So there's a permanent record in latex of every single one of those, which I think is a very important step. Now at this point...
I have a question at this point, because sometimes I'll stick chopsticks in there.
You can if you like.
And I'm worried about pushing them down too far.
Well, I would never put them in like that. I'd lay them alongside.
And then pour it on top. Sometimes I put it on the top and I push. I wasn't sure which is the best method, because the push across is so rare, you don't want to mess up.
That's why I think gauze is actually a better method of reinforcing the back of the print than sticks.
I just learned something from you.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
I use chopsticks.
That's what I would do. Yeah, but for most footprints, you wouldn't have to reinforce them at all because they're probably strong enough once you do it very, very thinly. For something like the Skookum cast, you want to put whatever you can in there to reinforce. And they use tent stakes. Somebody sacrificed their tent poles and put them inside there to help reinforce it so it didn't break. When it's drying, that's a good time to go back to your field notes and take more copious notes about the area, what kind of food supply you see there, what the weather conditions, and all that sort of stuff, because the footprint has to sit around for 25 or 30 minutes at least before you try to pull it.
I don't know how to take messages on this phone. I rode with Cliff and Bob and Tom Yemro.
Because depending on the mix, it may not have set long enough, maybe a little bit soft still. So when you go to break it, take a shovel or something, or if you have to use your hands, and I had to do that at the London site because sometimes Chris, my partner there, was using the shovel. You go down directly underneath. You don't take the shovel and go underneath like that. Go down like that on a couple sides and a couple on the outside, and then just pull it back, and that should break the soil. If you break it for a minute, if you put the shovel there, and then break it loose, hopefully, if you loosened up enough of the substrate underneath the cast, it'll just kind of pop a little bit. And that's when you go in with your hands and gently cradle it like a newborn child and lift it up. Bring it to some place it can dry a little bit further. Don't bother cleaning the dirt off it yet. At some point, maybe later in the evening, after several hours of hardening, that's when you starting to clear off the dirt. But leave a layer, leave like an inch layer of dirt on there. Don't be impatient. Don't clean off the print so you can see the details and look for dramatic lithics. Clean it off just enough so there's an inch of dirt or whatever on there. Then take it home and put it somewhere where it can dry for at least a week before you start trying to clean it off. Plaster will leach out water very, very slowly for the next 2 weeks. You can practice this at home, by the way, with your own footprints. But when you do that, put that print somewhere, like on a cement. Don't put it on good wooden furniture. Put it on cement. Leave it for an hour. Come back and move it. You're going to see there's a water spot where that one's right. It slowly leaches it out. After about a week or two of letting it cure like that, then what I do on a nice day like this, I take it to the backyard and I hose it down. I don't use brushes and stuff because that could introduce lines into the cast that could be misinterpreted. We don't want to introduce information into the cast. We only want the information that was in the ground. So basically, and then you have beautiful prints that are hosed down, all the dirt's off of them, and we can see information at the bottom of the print. And at that point, call me. Call Dr. Meldrum. Call somebody. Call Lyle Blackburn. He knows how to do this too. And lend them the original to make a latex mold of it. Originals are very, very, very rare. And if you don't make a copy of your footprint, if you don't make a latex mold, to me that's the same thing as not making a backup of your tax files on your computer. If they're gone, they're gone. A good example is the Elkins Creek cast, the Georgia cast. It was sent to Dr. Meldrum. Dr. Meldrum made a latex mold of it. He packed it up, shipped it back. When the box arrived, they found the box with a forklift hole in the side of it, and the cast had been broken into numerous pieces. Jeff had not made a backup of that cast. That cast and all the information that went wrong would now be lost. That cast has dramatic lithics on it. That information would be gone. So back up your cast. Please, please, please. Learn how to make your own latex mold. Do something. There you go. Questions? Questions?
Yeah, Cliff.